Hello everyone, this is Bibhudatta prusty from MSc 3rd Sem. Today I am going to give my presentation on the topic carbon cycle. Before going to study about carbon cycle, we must know about the carbon. So what is carbon? We know that on the basis of availability of elements, there are two types of elements are present, that is micro element and macro element, and carbon is categorized as macro element, which is abundantly found in nature as well as animal body. So carbon is a basic compound of plants and animals. Proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, carbohydrates and other molecules are essential to life that contains carbon. Carbon is present in the atmosphere as the gas carbon dioxide, which makes up nearly 0.03% of the atmosphere. It also present in the ocean and fresh water as dissolved carbon dioxide. Carbon also present in the rocks such as limestone, which formula is CaCO3, that is calcium carbonate. Now the carbon cycle. Carbon cycle shows the movement of carbon in elemental and combined state on earth. There is a continuous exchange of carbon dioxide between the atmosphere, aquatic bodies and living organisms. Thus carbon cycle can be defined as the cyclic process through which carbon element is circulated continuously through the living or biotic and non-living or abiotic components of the biosphere. There are two types of carbon cycle. One is short-term cycle and long-term cycle. In short-term carbon cycle, the short-term carbon cycle occurs within a relatively short period of time. It is named as such because it takes just days, months for carbon to flow across the various carbon reservoirs. And in case of long-term carbon cycle, the long-term carbon cycle takes thousands of years to occur. The excess carbon from short-term cycle is stored for a long period of time before they are released. Now there are different steps involved in the carbon cycle. Now the step 1 of carbon cycle is photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, plants, algae and cyanobacteria, which contains chlorophyll pigments, remove the carbon dioxide from the air and fix or incorporate it into complex organic compounds such as glucose. Photosynthesis incorporates carbon from the abiotic into the biological compounds of producers. That is, in the process of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide combines with water in the presence of chlorophyll pigment and sunlight, which produce glucose and molecular oxygen. The equation for photosynthesis is CO2, which is known as carbon dioxide, plus H2O, that is water, in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, gives us C6H12O6, that is glucose, and O2, which is molecular oxygen. Second step of carbon cycle, that is decomposition, animal and plant respiration, soil microorganism respiration. Many of the compounds are used as fuel for cellular respiration by the producer that made them, by a consumer that eats producer, or by a decomposer that breaks down the remains of the producer or consumer. The process of cellular respiration returns the carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. A similar carbon cycle occurs in aquatic ecosystem between aquatic organisms and dissolved carbon dioxide in water. The chemical equation for cellular respiration is C6H12O6 plus O2 in the presence of gives us carbon dioxide, water and energy. The process of photosynthesis incorporates the carbon atoms from carbon dioxide into sugar. Animals eat the plants and use the carbon to build their own tissue. Carnivores eat these animals and then use the carbon for their own needs. These animals return the carbon dioxide into air when they breathe, and when they die, the carbon is returned to the soil during decomposition. In both the steps, we have seen from the chemical equation that the cellular respiration equation and the photosynthesis equation are reverse to each other, but actually they are not reverse to each other. They are of different process. Now the step 3, partly decomposed plant remains, that is coal. Millions of years ago, vast coal beds are formed from the bodies of ancient trees that were buried and subjected to anaerobic condition before they had fully decayed, which forms the coal that contains abundantly the carbon elements. Now the step 4, that is marine plankton remains. The oils of unicellular marine organisms probably gave rise to the underground deposits of oil and natural gas that accumulated in the geologic past. Coal, oil, natural gas are collectively called as fossil fuel because they formed from the remains of ancient organisms. Fossil fuels are the non-renewable resources which cannot be renewed. The earth has a finite or limited supply of these resources. Now step 5, that is combustion of human and natural elements. The process of burning or combustion may return the carbon in oil, coal, natural gas and wood to the atmosphere. Combustion always produce the carbon. In combustion, organic molecules are rapidly oxidized, that is combined with oxygen, or the process is known as oxidation, in which molecular oxygen is added to the compound and convert it to carbon dioxide and water with the release of light and heat. The step 6, burial and compaction of firm rock, that is limestone. An even greater amount of carbon that is stored for millions of years is incorporated into the cells of marine organisms. When these organisms die, their cells sink to the ocean floor and sediments cover them, forming cemented together to form limestone, that is calcium carbonate, CaCO3. We have seen that mollusk, in case of mollusk, their body contains a hard cells which is made up of calcium carbonate. When such type of organism are die, their cell sinks in the ocean floor and the sediment cover them. The sediment cover the animal, forms the cemented form of limestone. Now step 7, erosion of limestone to form dissolved carbon dioxide. When the process of geologic uplift exposes limestone, chemical and physical weathering process slowly erode it away. This returns carbon to the water and atmosphere, where it is available to participate in the carbon cycle once again. Thus, photosynthesis removes carbon from the abiotic environment and incorporates it into the biological molecules, while cellular respiration, combustion and erosion of limestone returns the carbon to the water and atmosphere of the abiotic environment. Hence, we have studied that carbon cycle operates as well as on the land and the ocean beds. Now, what are the importance of carbon cycle? Why we study about the carbon cycle and what are the significance of carbon cycle? Many elements have cycle like phosphorus cycle, sulfur cycle, but the carbon cycle But the cycling of carbon atom is particularly important because through photosynthesis and respiration, it is the way the earth produces food and other renewable resources. Carbon dioxide plays a key role in trapping the heat in the atmosphere, which is one of the basic mechanisms behind the greenhouse effect. Carbon plays a central role in the combustion. Through the decomposition, carbon cycle serves as the earth waste disposal system. Carbon is an integral component of every life form on Earth, from protein to lipids, from DNA to RNA. Furthermore, all known life on Earth is based on carbon. Hence, the carbon cycle, along with other biogeochemical cycle, plays a vital role in the existence of life on Earth. Now, the changes to the carbon cycle. What happens if carbon cycle alters, or the alteration of carbon cycle gives which type of result? It gives positive or negative results. Now, changes to the carbon cycle. Human activities have a tremendous impact on the carbon cycle. Burning fossil fuels, changing land use, and using limestone to make concrete all transfer significant quantities of carbon into the atmosphere. As a result, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is rapidly increasing. It is already greater than at any time in the last 3.6 million years. The ocean absorbs much of the carbon dioxide that is released from burning fossil fuels. This extra carbon dioxide is lowering the ocean's pH through a process called ocean acidification. Ocean acidification interferes with the ability of marine organisms including corals, Dungeness crabs and snails to build their shells and skeletons. Now there is a table in the presentation that show the carbon repartition on Earth, global stocks, and in global stocks in gigaton, that is GT, and global stocks in IG per meter cube. The carbon repetition on Earth, that is in atmosphere in 2015. Soluble in ocean, biomass from ocean, land plant, soil, fossils, carbon including exploitable carbonate, sedimentary rocks, limestone that is calcium carbonate, and magnesia that is MgCO3. In the given table it is shows that. Now the authorities that check the carbon cycle. From the above presentation we have studied about the carbon cycles, types of carbon cycle, what is the steps through which carbon is circulated through the atmosphere, and significance of carbon cycle, and the changes of the carbon cycle which leads to the negative impact. Now the authority that check the carbon level or the carbon cycle. According to the Environmental Protection Act 1986, the central government is the main authority and the state government is the secondary authority to protect and improve the environmental quality, control and reduce pollution from all sources. The Environmental Protection Agency, that is EPA, is the legal authority to monitor and regulate the greenhouse gas emission and check the regulation of different biogeochemical cycles, that is including phosphorus cycle, sulfur cycle, carbon cycle, etc. Hope you all understand about the carbon cycle, and I have a well tried to make you understand. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.